Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley May. It's starting the day with a fast main track, and we had a little bit of rain last night, Ashley. So the turf course is listed as good, looking nice and green today.
We've been talking, we get a little bit of rain each week, but it's much needed on the turf course, and it hit pretty hard here around 7 p.m. last night.
Yeah, I was driving home about 6 or so, and out west was, I think it was a little even harder than we got hit. But the main track is fast, and the turf course, of course, with this balmy summer weather, will dry out nicely. I don't even think, like you said, probably needed the rain, and it should be really a nice surface this afternoon. So, being Friday with the fast main track and a good turf course, it means we have the Stronach 5 kicking off a little later on, and we got all the Stronach tracks involved.
Yeah, we're going to kick it off in race 8 at Pimlico about 4:15. And then today, just one race from Gulfstream Park. That's leg C, and that's our nightcap on the card.
Yeah, like race number 9, that one is on the turf, and this. Like the first race this afternoon is on the turf. It's a mile and a 16th. These are claimers, fillies and mares. 3-year-olds and up $16,000. We've got a scratch of the one Caribbean kitten. And, of course, we always have a couple of pick fives, and Ashley's got her early ticket.
Looking at my early ticket, as always, $36. I went 3 deep in here. I did use the number 2 Passion Plus. This one's out of the Saffie Joseph Jr. barn. And I think the performance last time out was a pretty game second going a mile. So should appreciate a mile and a 16th today. Also used the 3 and the 7 in this first leg. Race 2, I go 3 deep. I use the number 4, Ever 3, and the number 7, Here, but I have the most interest in the number 5, Siren's Lucky Song, who I think is probably the one to beat today. Race 3, I go 2 deep in here. For me, I thought about singling the number 2, Tune In, who I loved last time out at 10-1. Definitely not going to get that price today, 9-5 on the morning line. But I do think his main competitor comes right to his outside, the number 3 in that spot. So I did go 2 deep. Race 4, I also go 2 deep. We talk about this horse all the time. Number 2, Uncle Fun. They've had a lot of fun with him in his last 2 starts. He's had 2 back-to-back wins. He's stepped up in class, and today he's going to step up a little bit again. But talk about a horse that loves the turf course here at Gulfstream Park. All 3 of his lifetime wins, and he's 6 for 8 in the money. So I used him, as well as the number 3, Zippy Baby, who in the last 2 starts has had to face his stablemate, Yes This Time, who we'll see tomorrow in the English Channel. Last time out was 3rd to that stablemate, a pretty nice performance. So again, 2 deep here in race 4. Then to wrap things up in the final leg, went 2 deep. My long shot of the day is the number 2 Peruvian Dancer, who it's the first time gelding getting a weight break today with Renee Diaz in the saddle and getting some class relief. So I used the number 2 on top in there. And then the 8 Excalibur. I feel like eventually he's going to get that second lifetime win. He's missed in those last 2, so I used him as well for that $36 ticket.
We're lots of agreement early on, but we differ a little bit, so, which is always good. Yesterday we both disagreed in race number 5, and both of us did not win in that particular race. So the first race, as you mentioned, at the top of mile and the 16th on the turf. And you talked about number 2, Passion Plus, you have on top of your ticket. So let's go back and show you her last race when she turns from home to the wire. And just, as you mentioned, she is the number 7 this day. And just watch this performance by her closing. She was pretty sharp.
She had to swing wide in here, and she was really making ground up late. She only missed by half a length, and I alluded to this earlier. That was going a flat mile. Now going to go a mile and a 16th. She's got 2 wins the distance. She was just rolling late. Now she's back on the screen and just misses by a narrow margin. So I thought for me that was good enough to use her on top in here.
Yeah, and you're right about that mile and the 16th. She's had 6 races with those 2 wins at the distance. So, and it's leading trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. with Edgar Zayas, who had a multiple win day yesterday again. I did go with the number 7. This is a horse I've always had some interest in. Is Adorable Aida, who's a game winner at this level and distance. That was 2 starts back, drops, stretches out, finished 5th behind a pair of next out winners. That was that 16 starter allowance going a mile. The owner and trainer, Armando de la Cerda, has a leading jock. I don't know if Paco's still leading. I think he might be after yesterday. They were so close between him and Edgar. We'll have to check that out. He'll be in the saddle. And, of course, your top pick will have Edgar in the saddle.
You mentioned with the 7 is Adorable Ada. The 5th place finish last time out, it was against a bit of a tougher group and only going 7.5. So I do like her stretching back out in distance today. She had that nice win, 2 starts back, but then I start going back down the page, 3 starts back. I didn't love the effort. So I used her a little further down than you, but still think she's one that's sneaky in the spot.
And Sky Snow is stepping up and stretching out. Drew clear to defeat those condition claimers going 8 furlongs. It's Carlos David. He's good winning consecutive races.
He is, and that's why I'm not really concerned with the slight step up today in competition. That win last time out was pretty nice, too, and I think looking at the way the race may shape up in here, Sky Snow might get a nice trip just off the pace.
Let's go to race number 2, 6 1/2 furlongs. These are maiden claiming fillies, 3 and up. $25,000 kicks off the first of 2. Pick 4s on the afternoon, and we both started it off with the number 5 Siren's Lucky Song, who's going to the suddenly hot Bobby DeBona barn. He had 3 wins over the weekend. Let's go back and show you Serena's last race where she had to really, you'll see her right there, she's the number 5. She really has to slam on the brakes here. And once you do that, I just think you lose all momentum in the race. And, she just comes down and checks in third, didn't really get going in the stretch. I think with a clean trip today that she is a major player in this spot.
Yeah, well, especially going 6 furlongs. I mean, you don't have much time to recover. This isn't a 2-turn race. So to finish it like that so nicely, just missed second in that spot. I liked the effort. I think was also wide in that spot. Now in for the $25,000 tag. And then you throw in what you already mentioned. The barn's been great this meet, but they also do very well first off the claim, winning at 26%. So enough to have me put this one on top.
Well, tell me about the number 7, a horse I did not use in here, and that is Lunar Blast.
Well, it's Victor Barboza Jr., who we always talk about off maybe second off the layoff or off the claim. And for me, it's second off the layoff in this case. $20,000 level last time out, finished second and was well defeated. I get that. Was beaten by 10 3/4 lengths. But I'm just thinking that this one tried the dirt for the first time last time out. It played well to speed. This one tried to sit off the speed. So I'm just thinking now combining that with second off the layoff, we can see some improvement. Was a pricey purchase at Keeneland in September of 2019, $205,000. This is a daughter of Frosted. So I saw the morning line after I picked this one. I said, okay, I would deal with 8-1 quite nicely.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like to have one of those prices in there. I'm glad you mentioned the number 4, Ever 3, when you were putting your ticket together, who I like this afternoon. A little, just the one spot up from you, stretching out to the 6.5 furlongs after I thought a promising 6 furlong debut in which he raced Greenlee both early and late in that race, and she still managed to finish third against the 25 level horses. Antonio Sano Paco returning. Horse absolutely, in my estimation, needed that last race.
Maybe the light bulb didn't go on. It seemed like it went on a little bit, but you've mentioned the greenness at the start and the greenness in the stretch. Just had a bunch of issues with that. And so I think that debut was probably a learning experience. And from there, if this one can improve and maybe took a couple things out of that race in March, can certainly improve in this spot.
Well, let's go to race number 3 this afternoon. 1 mile starter allowance, 4-year-olds and up that started for $35,000 or less. We did have a scratch in here this morning of the number 6 horse. So, as you mentioned, you were thinking about singling number 2. We're going to go back and show you both this race last time out. First, we're going to show you start of a horse I did not pick. It's a Can't Catch Curlin, who just gets totally eliminated at the start. I just wanted to point that out. If you do have some interest in that horse, it was 12-1 last time out. I just thought it was a good performance. But here is Tune In coming and get to the stretch, the number 2 horse, and I just thought ran exceptionally well. And who does this horse reel in? Well Defined, who come back and won a stake in its next start. And there is Kanani in back. So Well Defined, not in this race, but Tune In, really nice performance and beat a really nice horse from Kathleen O'Connell.
Big performance from Well Defined just this past weekend. And Tune In, I think, didn't get respect in that spot because of Well Defined and the other horse that we talked about drawing to his outside today, but also because he was on the turf before that, and those efforts were both wins. But now going in that dirt spot, it was a competitive dirt race. To see him handle the layoff well on the surface, he picked up his 3rd lifetime win on the dirt. I use him on top. That was a career best performance from him last time out.
Well, you mentioned Kanani. This is what a hard-knocking campaigner from the Tammy Levy barn. Does his best running, as you've seen late. He needs his best to really. You just got to get that pace in front of him. He can jump in and grab you at any time.
His last 3 races, they've all been solid. They've been at the mile. He's a 13-time winner at the distance. So no one else can really say that in this field. And for me, seeing that Tune In beat him last time out, he could flip the tables. There's no doubt about it. He's going to close from off the pace. I do think Tune In's going to be a little bit closer to it, but that's why when I put that early ticket together in here, I had to use both of them.
Well, I showed you at the top, can't catch Curl and just losing all chance, stumbling, almost dropping the water at the start. Maybe that's going to be part of the pace this afternoon and set it up for a horse like Kanani. It's otherwise a little light in the pace department for me. And what happened to Rebeldi last time? Back in 8 days, looking to duplicate his recent score against 25 condition claimers, where he used his tactical speed to stalk and pounce, draw away for Terry Pompey. So we'll see him coming back with a short turnaround.
Very short turnaround, but we've mentioned the barn's doing well. I just went to the horse on the inside for underneath the number 1, Dream Marie, because this is a filly that's tackled some really tough competition. Pacific Gale, Latrusca, 3 starts back when this one finished second in the Grade 3 Rampart, but making that first start since February might be a tall task.
Yeah, we'll see how that horse runs in there. That's the first 3 races. We take that short break, and when we come back, we'll have my Rainbow 6 ticket.
And they're off. Second in the 2 path. Ground on first inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. A couple of minutes afternoon. A mile and a 16th on the turf is where our Rainbow 6 is going to start. It's an optional claimer for 3-year-olds. The optional claiming price, $75,000. Pretty nice race. And I have my ticket. Let's quickly go to it so we have some time to talk about the races here. 3 deep, I had to use Uncle Fun. I think Broadway's got a shot for Christophe Clement. You mentioned Zippy Baby for Kelly Breen. And race number 5, here's where we differ a little bit. I went with the method. I'm thinking I'm going to get a price for Saffie Joseph Jr. Actually made that horse my best bet today. Also used the number 8 Excalibur. I love the performance in race number 6 of North County Fair. Came from the parking lot to win. And then 3 deep, a wide open 7th race. And as I mentioned a little earlier on today, in the last race, got a little bit of a long shot with the number 5, Include the Beast. Moves to the Albany Mirage Barn after the claim. Going to try the turf this afternoon. So I think 8 or 10 to 1 on the morning line. 43.20 for me. Mile in the 16th, as I mentioned, on the turf. Allowance optional claimer. Did you use Uncle Fun on top?
Of course I did. I had to. I just think looking at the recent performances, he stepped up in his last couple efforts, right? And he's kind of done it with grace. He's won his last 2 starts back by a length and a quarter, and last time he closed just to get up in time by a nose in front of Big Blue and Cartano. I just think kind of we don't really know what he has to offer. He's going to close from off the pace, and he certainly can probably win 3 starts in a row today, so I did use him on top.
Yeah, Edgar Zayas in the saddle, but you made a great point with the 3 Zippy Baby, your previous winner at the distance, rallied to finish third behind, as you mentioned, yes, this time. It's absolutely going to be the favorite in the stake tomorrow.
When you look at Zippy Baby, even last year in 2020, some of those races at Saratoga is scheduled for the turf, finished third in there behind Fire at Will, who we'd see in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And then looking at the recent performances, I already alluded to this earlier, but yes, this time has been the winner of those last 2 efforts. And it's his stablemate, another Kelly Breen trainee, who we will see tomorrow, a very nice horse who I believe is at 3 to 1 on the morning line, so is going to take a ton of play, as you mentioned, probably the favorite in that spot. And this one's another one that's going to close from off the pace. So when I kind of look at the pace scenario in here, I know you used the number 4 Broadway. Maybe part of your logic was maybe this one will be closer to the pace and the other 2 will have more work to do late.
Yeah, well, because Broadway's going to stretch out to the additional 16th of a mile today after rallying to finish 4th in his career debut against those 75 optional claimers. Christophe Clement, pretty good, 5 for 19 at the meeting thus far. You're getting Paco. I think Paco's going to get this horse a little closer to the pace, but you're absolutely right. This is sort of a race that it's going to become a jockey's race because there's not any, like, speed that's going to go up there and set the table for everybody else.
And then my logic with that, too, is looking at some of the other horses that are maybe trying the turf for the first time or they're stretching out. And that's why I used the number 6, Bright Devil, who I loved last time out. I think you liked Bright Devil as well. And that was a 5 furlong event. Now, this one didn't have speed, but now it's going to stretch out in distance today to a mile and the 16th for the first time in his career. And in his 2 races here, he hasn't shown too much yet, but they've been against tough competition. So he's going to stay at this level, make his second start, off the layoff. And hopefully we'll see what he can do on the stretch out.
Best angle in racing, Nicoletti off, so make sure you jump aboard in there. Race number 5 this afternoon, and this is where the late pick 5 is going to kick off. And this one, a mile, claimers, 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life. I just knew when we were talking about our tickets that we'd be different in here. My best bet, I thought the 4, the method, it's going to Saffie Joseph Jr. barn, which I like. Drops to the 6,252 lifetime level. It's a big drop. Gets Lasix. First start, showing speed and fading against those 20 claimers going a mile. Now is back in January. Their new go-to rider. You just watch everything that Saffie Joseph Jr. is putting out. They're using Edwin Gonzalez. Been really impressed with this jockey with horses on or near the lead. Thought I'd get a little bit of a price. Was a little shocked to see it, whatever it was on the morning line of 6 or 8 to 1.
6 to 1, and
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do with the method. He's one that I think he can win, and he can win for fun like he did over the slop at Gulfstream Park West when he broke his maiden by 6.5. But the next effort, it was a good second, beaten by a length and a half behind Uncle Pip. And last time out, that $20,000 claiming event, the winner, Hercules, came back to win next time out. It was a tough spot. This is only 6,250. You mentioned Lasix. I didn't know what to do with that because he won without Lasix 3 starts back. It was over the slop. I don't know. It's a head scratcher, and he's your best bet. So now I'm getting a little nervous if I'm alive, I'm sure, when the gates open for race 5 and that early pick 5.
Well, I love this because you got a nice price horse on top of your ticket with the number 2 Peruvian Dancer, who I think is 12 to 1 on the morning line.
Yep, I put him on top. I took a stance here because I do think Excalibur, and you see this, we both use that horse for second, so we'll get to him in a second. But looking at Peruvian Dancer, this is the first time Gelding going to get a 10-pound weight break today. Paco was aboard last time out at that 12.5 non-winners of 2 level at today's distance. But Arrogant Rene Diaz got his first win last week aboard Jessica. Very excited to see that happen for him. We're talking about 2 bad races. I can maybe excuse the 1-2 back at the 6 furlong distance, but look at his form before that. And in February, even late in the summer, his races were all pretty solid. He'd been facing better non-winners of 2 lifetimes. So I'm just wondering if a couple little changes here can make the difference. And I thought maybe he'd be 6 to 1 on the morning line. If he goes out anywhere near this price, I'll use him. And he's another one. I don't know what to do with. He could win, or maybe he won't perform well.
Well, you picked the number 2, I picked the number 4, because I think the reasoning is because Excalibur is one of those horses knocking on the door in 3 consecutive route races at this level, including the last pair as the beaten favorite. Let him beat me. I'm going to use him on my ticket, but I'm not going to put him on top till he proves he can win. But with that said, he probably will now.
And it does maybe bode a little bit well for him in this spot, knowing that the race on April 16th, the winner, One-Eyed Jack, we saw return to the winner's circle yesterday here and had to dig deep for it late. He's beat a couple other runners in here, so I think that bodes well for him. But you've mentioned he just kind of hangs on the stretch. He can't get the job done. He had the lead late last time out and surrendered it by a neck. And I just see that 0 for 12 over the main track here, and I'm just going to use him underneath.
Well, let's go to race number 6, 1 mile and 1/16 on the turf, maiden special weight, fillies 3 and up. Another really nice race to kick off the late pick 4 this afternoon. And let's check out your ticket.
So here I go 2 deep in this first leg. I use Champagne Ivy out of the Saffie Joseph Jr. barn in the number 6 North Country Fair. I know you have some interest in this one. Race 7, I'll use 3 horses in here. He's the number 3. Mr. Axel is making his second start off the layoff. He's 6 to 1 morning line. But then for me, I think the number 5 Long Beach Kid and the 8 Poppy's Boy, they're a tough 2 pair to use in here. So I had to use both of them to use those 3 horses overall in race 7. Race 8, I go 2 deep in here. The number 5 Flamingo Hawk. This is going to be her second time, I should say, facing winners. Last time out, finished second behind Bailey. The stablemate was favored in that spot. Very decisive maiden win, 2 back. So I think Flamingo Hawk's illogical. But the number 3 Flipping Fish, this one's out of the Ron Spatz barn. Maiden winner on debut last time out, and I thought this one was pretty professional on debut, so excited to see this one and just making that second career start. And then race 9, I used 3 horses in here. I used the number 1 Missing Link, who's 3 for the last 4 starts. Just has 1 bad performance to show, and I believe that was 3 starts back. I also used the number 10 La Cara Bonita and the 12 Fast Catalina, who's going to take a drop in class. So $18 play for the late pick 4.
Very affordable $18 play. And in this 6th race, I know you have, I believe you have Champagne Ivy on top of your ticket, but I want to go back and show the performance of North County Fair, the British bred horse from the Lisa Lewis barn. And you're going to see, well, maybe you're going to see this horse way back there. Just makes a huge run this day, the number 7. And you can just see out there, wide as can be. And I just love the way this horse closed. Now, got some decent fractions up front to close. Still not in the picture right yet until you see. And I like the way this horse was just grabbing the turf, was really gobbling up the ground at the end and got up. I just thought it was a good performance. Lisa Lewis, Edgar Zayas in the saddle this afternoon. Just thought that race, got to get, I think at one point, if you look at the chart, was behind the field like 8 or 9 lengths. So, just really came on really strong.
Yeah, wicked turn of foot in the stretch. And you mentioned kind of was gobbling the turf up and certainly liked the surface. Big debut, 74 Beyer speed figure, just missed by a little bit. Going to get first time Lasix and Edgar Zayas in the saddle. So Junior Alvarado rode last time out. Now you're getting Edgar. I mean, 2 great riders, so you have to like what you see. Gave a slight nod to the number 2 Champagne Ivy. I did some digging with the formulator, and I do have a trainer stat here for Safi Joseph Jr. This is with maidens with blinkers on. So this one's going to get blinkers on for the first time in her career, but I just looked at maidens blinkers on the last 5 years. Safi is 12 for 45. He wins at 27%. He's 62% in the money. ROI is $1.74. And, you mentioned North Country Fair is getting Zayas. Zayas is climbing off of Champagne Ivy in this spot. And those last 2 starts is closed. I think last time out going 7.5 would have preferred the mile and a 16th that she had saw 2 starts back, was closing pretty nicely in the stretch. Just to miss by less than 2 lengths. Little concerned she was favored there, and she had 2 other horses kind of beat her, but I don't think the opening quarter helped her at all. They almost went 25 flat in that 7.5 furlong event, so I'm expecting her to step up here hopefully today, but to me, this is a top 2 battle between these 2 on paper.
Yeah, and I think Ed Gonzalez is going to ride the number 2 Champagne Ivy, and I think they're if you look at the jock trainer stats between Safi and Gonzalez there, I think they're like 6 for 8 or something at the meet, something like that. So they're doing exceptionally well. I used the number 3 in 3rd. We have our 3rd and 4th flip-flop. Mo Normal is making her 3-year-old debut with Lasix first starts, and I thought she showed some promise in a 2-race turf campaign at the distance up at Saratoga last summer. Christophe Clemonti's pretty solid with this type of layoff. Paco atop a really beautifully bred daughter of Uncle Mo. So you really don't know what you're going to get with this horse, if they're trying to get a race into this horse before they ship it out, or is this going to be one ready to win right out of the box?
You mentioned you don't know what you're going to get. I also don't know where she'll be because last time out they put her towards the front and she finished 4th and they were beaten by 3.5. In the other trip, they tried to have her close and she did have trouble in both of those races. I went to the number 5 Unshakable You, who used in the 4th spot. Those last 2 races, this one has gone to the front on the turf here. I almost got the job done 2 starts back at the mile, and then last time out quit a little bit more, which you kind of look at the times of the races. Not a huge difference. Was able to make an easy lead, just quit. Part of it might have been the post draw. So Chantel's going to climb aboard. And her and being gone, they've done quite well this meet so far and even this winter. So I used Unshakable You over the number 3 Mo Normal.
Let's go to race number 7. We're staying on the turf, about 7.5 furlongs. Claim is 3 and up. Nonwood is 2 in life. 20 down to 16. Scratch the 1 horse in here. If you're just joining us, the turf course is listed as good. And you, like me, have the number 5 Long Beach Kid on top of your ticket. Just drops into this Nonwood as a 2 lifetime affair and turns back. Had that lead last time out.
You mentioned had the lead, and then last time out, Tellington. This is a nice little horse that we've seen here. I think has won the last 2 starts and done it quite nicely. This one's out of the Kathleen O'Connell barn. Just looking at the last couple efforts, was in for a $35,000 tag, 2 and 3 starts back, and did have a nice 3rd place finish behind Mr. Leonardo and that horse again, Uncle Fun. So I do think this is a logical spot for him. Seems to do well here. And then from there, I think the next horse to use, and we're in the super mode today. We have the straight super here, was the number 8 Poppy's Boy, who last time out finished 3rd, beaten by a length, was favored in that spot. There was an upset winner of Strike the Top, but trying to make up ground late and did it fairly well at today's 7.5 furlong distance.
Well, the 3, Mr. Axel, is hoping to get away from the gate trouble-free after bobbling and sort of bumping at the start prior to finishing a weakening fourth. Gets those 12 two-lifetime runners last time out for Michelle Nihei, Edwin Gonzalez. I thought this was an interesting horse, and I think this is the first time since last week that we have a cold super together.
And hopefully that bodes well for us. The other thing with Mr. Axel I just want to touch upon real quick is it's going to be second start off the layoff, and that race that he's coming out of, that was the nightcap that day. I remember watching it with you. Calabash was getting some significant class relief, and the more we looked at it, was probably the horse to beat. So I think it was a pretty good performance off the bench and can only step up from here.
Well, let's go to race number 8, first half of the late daily double. 6 furlong starter, optional claimer. 3-year-old started for 25 or less. A nice field of 9 in here with no scratches or jockey changes. And in race number 9, I did go with the number 5 horse in here, and that is Flamingo. Race number 8, excuse me, with the number 5 Flamingo Hawk, who's wheeling back after following really his commanding 16 maiden victory. I thought ran good, came back and ran second. And as I mentioned, here you get that jock-trainer combo. When you look at the past performances of before yesterday's card, they're 5 for 8, 63%. So I thought Flamingo Hawk was a logical contender in here.
And last time out, actually seemed to, in my opinion, at one point seemed to be backpedaling a bit. And I remember watching the race saying, okay, I love Flamingo Hawk. This isn't happening today. And still was able to close nicely. Was favored in there. I've mentioned it. The stablemate was able to get the job done. But the connections, they're hard to ignore. And just looking at those last 2 efforts, to me in the field, this one has the best recent form.
I think I remember you picking Flipping Fish last time out, or at least mentioned it because I love the name, and this one is stepping up to face winners for Ronnie Spatz.
The debut I just thought was pretty professional. I mean, this one got towards the front quite early on, was able to draw clear by a length and a half. I always look at times of races and replays, and I think this is a nice spot for this horse, looking at some of the other runners in here from a times perspective of that $20,000 maiden claiming event. Is obviously just going to have to improve from there, but from a debut standpoint, as one of the stronger maiden scores out of the field. So, the big question here is what else can he do? We saw that he kind of got to the front there and was able to keep on going. So I'm not sure he's going to get that easy lead, because if you look directly to his inside, Uncaptured Soldier has some speed, as well as some other runners in here, especially the number 6 Ensign Parker. So I don't know what he's going to do here, but he showed enough in that debut to use him.
Well, you mentioned Uncaptured Soldier stepping up, stretching out today after edging away to defeat those 20 claimers, going 5.5 last time out. Kelly Breen's going to have Paco in there. So you're right. I think this horse is definitely going to be part of the pace this afternoon.
I agree. I used him a little lower. I think the number 6 Ensign Parker is also going to give him a run for his money, because this one was coming out of some turf sprints, wasn't getting the lead in those. And then last time out on the dirt going 6 furlongs, they said, let's go. They almost went 44-3 to the half. And finished third behind Flamingo Hawk. So I don't think Ensign Parker's speed can, carry him on the dirt once again, but I think he'll be part of that early mix.
Well, let's go to race number 9, and let's go to the turf for that race. 5 furlongs, claimers, fillies, 3-year-olds, 4 and up, non-winners of 3. 20,000 down to 16,000. I'll kick it off here with my long shot, Include the Beast. And I sort of mentioned this, goes to the RB Mirage barn, and I just find that barn is pretty sharp when they want to be. And via the claimed last time out, debuts on the turf. Dual for lead, finished third, was the favorite that day against 20 claimers going 6 furlongs on the main track. So the new connections keep the status quo. They got Angel Arroyo in the saddle, and I just got a feeling that this one might be able to turf this afternoon at a price.
Mentioned the surface will be the big question. I think what goes well for this filly is she does have some early foot. She's been racing at 6 furlongs most recently in those last 2 starts. Now she's cutting back to 5. I don't think she'll hate that at all. I didn't use this horse in my tickets, and we always talk about this. Nightcap, you always like long shots. I might have to come back and look at her.
Well, I'm sorry. Your logical horse is the number 1 Missing Link, who's the only 3-time winner in the field.
She's quick. I mean, she had that one race that was kind of not too good. It was the first off the layoff from September to December. Didn't show much. It was a tough spot facing winners for the first time. They gave her some more time to regroup, about 10 weeks, and been lights out those last 2 races. I think she had to work for it a little bit more last time out, but she is quick. She has an inside draw. David Fox has done a tremendous job with this filly, so I had to use her on top. But It'll be interesting to see if anyone else tries to go with her. I think they might try, but just not sure that they can.
Well, it's the first time she's facing older horses. Oh, those are against 3-year-olds, but I don't put much stock in it this time of the year. I think she's just in good form. Love horses that have done something, as I say all the time, that no one else in the race has done, and that's win 3 times. You have the number 12 horse, who I have a little further down, but I think with the scratches might be when the main track onlys come out. Will be post-10, so it won't be that bad.
Does have a win this year. It was her first start. That was in late February, facing $20,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime, and was forwardly placed and drew clear with Jose Ortiz aboard on that occasion. Then she had a bad race after that, stepping up to non-winners of 3 lifetime. But looking at her last 2 races, I like the effort 2 back. She started that Charter Allowance Company last time out. It was a little too tough for her, but I will say she was able to close late to finish 4th, beaten by 3 1/4. But just looking at 2 of the top 3 in there, Tracy Ann Legacy and Oscar Moore, they're seasoned mares. So I do think it was a tough spot for her. So I think the little bit of class relief might be enough for her.
Well, the number 10, La Cara Bonita, is dropping into this condition claimer, which you have to like finish 3rd and 4th, respectively, in a pair of 16 state-bred optional claimers for Mr. Barboza, with Edgar Zayas atop this daughter point of entry. And I think, like you, the allure is the drop in competition and a pretty consistent form.
Very consistent form. She's consistently usually getting minor shares. She had 1 win this year and 1 win last year. I just kind of see her over the Gulfstream Park Turf course. She likes to get 2nd and likes to get 3rd. But another one, those last 2 spots, they were tougher. So you see Edgar Zayas going to stay aboard. We talk about Victor Barboza, I think, once a day. The connections do well, and they've been off to a good start at the meet.
Well, that's how we see this 9-race card, but we still have our very exciting lightning round about the kickoff right now. And we'll start it off today, the lightning round, with the big news of tomorrow, and that's mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six tomorrow. They're expecting about over $2 million in the pool. You and I put some tickets together, separate tickets, and we'll be showing those a little later on all our social media platforms.
I think it's a great sequence. The racing office did a great job getting that card to come together. It kicks off with a maiden special weight event with some big pedigrees in there. And then from there, there's some wide open races. So I may have to beef up my ticket the more I look at it. 64.80 is what I went with, but I may need to add a couple horses. It's so competitive.
We mentioned, we sort of teased it a little bit about jockey Sammy Camacho coming back down here from, he does a great job up in Tampa, comes down and rides here in the spring and summer. And here he is on a 2-year-old, winning his first race back, talking about Sammy on Arrow Shape, who ran pretty good in there. Boy, these two just went and ran as fast as they could, these babies.
They hooked up out of the gate, and they were dueling. I think you like Spirit Win. I liked Arrow Shape, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Neither did the betting public. Both 6-5 in that spot, but a really nice performance. And you mentioned Sammy coming over from Tampa, where he usually spends his winters, and now getting back over here.
Well, just about 9 days away from the 146th Preakness Stakes, so things are starting to shape up, and we find out that Joel Rosario will be riding a really interesting horse. He's going to be well, we got the English Channel. Let's go do the English Channel first. We'll show the field for that race there. So yeah, there you go. So we mentioned, yes, this time is the 3-1 morning line favorite in this race. So Edwin Gonzalez in the saddle today. As I mentioned, when I like Cartana a little bit, maybe to upset.
I like a couple horses exiting the Cutler Bay, the number 8 Hyperfocus for Todd Pletcher, and the 12 Flamini, who ran huge second behind Annex, I think at 29-1 in the Cutler Bay. So I agree, yes, this time looks tough, but I think there are a couple other horses that may be able to flip the tables on that horse. And look, he's looking to win a couple more in a row, it looks like, from those last few efforts.
Yeah, it's a really, besides that, it's a wide open affair. I love that race being part of the Rainbow Six. And now, as I mentioned, with the 146th Preakness Stakes just 9 days away, things are starting to shape up. And Joel Rosario, who is one of my all-time favorite riders, he's one of the best. He'll be riding that interesting Japanese shipper, Francisco de Aina, in that race. And I just think you don't know what you're going to get this horse. I was reading somewhere if this horse wins this race, the Preakness, and then wins the Belmont, is eligible for a $1 million bonus.
Yeah, I read about the bonus too, and I think the exciting thing is to see these other horses from other countries participate on our biggest days here for 3-year-olds. It's always exciting, and it's also exciting if you're at the track and during normal circumstances to watch them train, because how they train, very different than we do things here, so I always feel like I'm learning something else.
Yeah, and he's about, I think he might have already arrived, or he's about to arrive into the United States. Of course, quarantined for a little bit, and we'll see how he runs. Supposed to be a really, really nice horse. Can't wait to see him, as you said, stretching his legs at the at Old Hilltop. And then, sort of not a sad goodbye, just a goodbye to a really nice trainer who I thought was a really nice guy, and that is Buff Bradley, 57 years old. I remember him and his dad training Brass Hat to win the Don, which is now the Pegasus. Back then, and of course he had Groupie Doll, who was just an incredible horse, Breeders' Cup winner, who won here, just was incredible, winning the Hurricane Birdie back in I think 2014 by open length. So Buff Bradley, one of the good guys.
You mentioned a Groupie Doll winning here. That would be her final career start when she won that race here in Brass Hat. Always loved horses like him because he traveled everywhere. I mean, you don't see horses. Yes, he won here and he won at some bigger tracks, but Turfway, Louisiana Downs, Suffolk, those horses I think always stand out to me. Those hard travelers, they try every time, and he won a lot of races during his career.
Well, maybe we'll see a Buff on the front side somewhere, maybe doing a little TV or something like that. He's a young pup, so he's got a lot to go, and he just had, I think he's had like 600 wins, but he's had some really fantastic horses. So that's the lightning round. That's the 9-race card for Friday. Thank you, Ashley. Another excellent job by you.
Good luck this afternoon.